Hey, what's up? It's Ryan Shazier, former NFL linebacker and host of the podcast Don't Call the Comeback. Football season is finally upon us. That means lots and lots of yelling, great conversations, and abundance of delicious food. There's nothing like a good game day food tradition. I love grilling. And on Sundays, me and my family love eating Oscar Mayer beef franks. It honestly can't get more classic than that. But you know, game day can't stop with just one food. I love making cheeseburgers topped with some extra melty Kraft singles. And you have to get a little fancy with it by adding jalapenos and crispy onions. I'm getting hungry even thinking about it. I love sharing game day food traditions with my friends and family. Now is your turn to show off your tasty game day food traditions. Go to www.gamedayfoodtraditions.com to share a photo of your game day food traditions to enter to win $10,000. Once again, that's www.gamedayfoodtraditions.com to enter to win $10,000.
And here's your prescription.
I know just the pharmacy to get this filled.
Who are you?
A pharmacy benefit manager. A middleman your insurer uses to decide which medicines you can get, what you pay, and sometimes even which pharmacy you should go to.
Why can't I go to a pharmacy in my neighborhood?
Because I make more money when you go to a pharmacy I own.
No one should stand between you and your medicine. Visit phrma.org/middleman to learn more. Paid for by Pharma.
We're coming, and we ain't backing down.
We don't need a bunch of cats in here looking in the mirror.
Everybody just do your job. You understand that?
Hey, will you shut up?
I'm bitterly disappointed with the officiating today.
Guys being dudes.
And they run through our like through a tin horn, man.
Thank you, Lee. I'm Richard Johnson. I don't really have a show intro. It is week 9. What are we? We're staring down the barrel of week 9.
Belly of the beast.
Yeah.
I am Alex Kirshner. Who are you, our third person?
Oh, we're doing this thing again? Stephen Godfrey at 38. Remember when I was a featured guest? We had to keep that bit up for a year.
Those were the good times.
Those were the good times.
I
Gentlemen,
hate you both.
So it is week 9. The college football season waits for nobody, and it is moving rapidly. To
Thank
think
God.
that it's basically the home stretch in about a week. It's November. A couple quick news items this week before we get into standard podcast business. Will Healy, the head coach at Charlotte, fired on Sunday, actually while we were recording the Split Zone Duo Sunday Hurry Up. This is a tough one. Will did a really good job at Austin Peay, where he took one of the worst programs in recent Division I history, almost got it to the FCS playoffs, set them up for a pretty good run after that. His name came up a lot, even for a Power 5 job, such as it is for Vanderbilt a couple off seasons ago. They had made a bowl early on in his tenure at Charlotte. They beat Duke to start 2021. But then clearly this year, it just fell all the way apart. They are 1-7. They just got their asses kicked by FIU, which is one of the worst teams in the country, as is Charlotte, clearly. Quick thoughts here, fellas?
G5 problems. You lose good assistants, you can't replace them.
Yeah.
Brain drain.
Yeah, you said brain drain in the notes, Richard. I think that's a good summary of it. I'm going to plug the single wing here, splitzoneduo.com. Become a patron today. I kind of broke this down in much more detail as to why this fell apart. And if you look specifically at the coaching staff from the first bowl season, there's some really good names there that have all moved on to more successful, deeper pocketed places. Memphis, Florida State, Kansas, etc. This is what happens. That's the short version. If you want a longer version, and then where Charlotte works in sort of the transition pecking order. Also, I would just point out, it feels like every school that is leaving Conference USA for the American or staying in the American to become the new American is either on the precipice of a firing, looking at a firing, just doing a lot of soul searching. There seems to be a little bit of anxiety and a kind of a land rush towards who will be in a pole position in the new American Athletic Conference.
This is not an AAC Conference USA specific problem.
Nope.
Like, you've got plenty of FCS teams, not plenty, but I should say a handful of FCS teams who are kind of in this spot of, should we go? Should we jump? Are we capable of jumping? Do we need to jump now before FBS becomes cordoned off with what the NCAA's transformation committee may or may not do when it hands down its recommendations, etc., over the next couple of months here? There's a lot of anxiety on the FCS level kind of because of that. there is obviously clear anxiety on the Conference USA level, or I should say was, because they're all leaving. There was clear anxiety about the future of Conference USA. Do we get into the American? Is the American a better home? All that kind of stuff. You've got a lot of programs at this level that I think move too fast, too quickly, and eventually the rent comes due at some point in time.
Richard, are you talking about the 49ers?
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, Kyle Shanahan's draft history at running back left a vacant hole at the position, and they had to make a trade, and they did. And
you
mean
Kyle didn't run the ball? You mean Kyle didn't run the ball?
Well, Kyle didn't get guys who could run the ball well.
Guess what? When Kyle has guys who run the ball, he still doesn't do it.
If we're looking at Charlotte, at the other 49ers, it doesn't really sound like a good situation right now going into a conference where everyone invests more in football, typically, at least the median is much higher than in Conference USA.
Average, I mean, their budget is $10-ish million at this point in time, lower than
for football.
No, total.
Oh,
athletic
boy.
department.
So
is about $10 million lower than the lowest public AAC school. Part of the problem is that Charlotte's not going to get a full share here for the beginning. That's not a rare thing.
Of American conference revenue.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with Charlotte, by the way. Those are usually the terms that you agree to when you transition.
Yes, that happened to Rutgers and company. That is not going to happen with the University of Texas at Austin and Oklahoma, by the way. I think. And then I know it's not going to happen with USC and UCLA, but it is going to happen with the CUSA teams that are moving up. So look, Charlotte is not rare in its G5-ness where this is concerned. Charlotte is just the most recent example.
Other news. I'm going to tell a quick story. Yesterday, so we record on Wednesdays. On Tuesday, late morning, John Wilner, who is one of the couple of reporters who I think we trust the most on the Pac-12, John Wilner and John Canzano, the Johns.
Yeah, the Johns are. Yeah, I would say the Johns are where you can start and maybe stop too when you're looking for Pac-12 news.
Just these guys are Pac-12 news guys. This is what they do. He says, feels like a newsy day in the Pac-12 on Tuesday. I text you guys, what's this about? Let's do some calls. Let's figure it out. You both ascertained that it was probably Ray Anderson, the athletic director at Arizona State, getting fired.
Yes.
I just want to insert real fast. It wasn't that.
I sent texts around. I was like, hey, what's going on the West Coast? It's people out the West Coast, mainly on the coaching side. They're like, oh, shit, I bet Ray's getting clipped. Ray's getting clipped. Ray's getting clipped. And so I feed that into the agent side of the machine, and everyone's like, yeah, like no one had it, but it was like everyone's operating assumption was like, oh, yeah, Ray's getting clipped. Now, I will insert actual reporting here. I did speak with multiple sources earlier in the week about, as we mount up for the actual cycle, the real coaching carousel. If you notice and you listen to the Single Wing or you listen to our Patreon content, we're talking about open jobs. We're talking about the context. We're not doing the names yet. Richard and I have not done a single coach gossip show yet because it is foolish to do it now when there isn't actual meat there. Just because these jobs are open, some of them are in stasis. Pursuant to that, Alex, I had someone tell me, hey, Colorado is moving way, way further ahead, and UAB is moving way, way further ahead than the other open jobs specifically. When they talked about Colorado, they said Colorado's out there operating in the market. Arizona State is not.
Yeah, and Arizona State's pretty, I mean, I was just going to quickly say Arizona State's like pretty clearly behind. Like yes. Ray Anderson has also like Ray Anderson, like from the beginning, signaled that they're not really on the same page as far as search process is going.
Right. Which basically had the entire other outside part of the industry, and including people in the know, the agent community who's going to, search firms, people who are going to interface with ASU, they're going, oh, okay. Yeah. So we're going to wait for you to get removed and then we're going to deal with your replacement. And that was not the case.
Georgia Tech hired an athletic director like 10 days ago, and they're about to hop into the pool here in a couple days here and probably be ahead.
So Georgia Tech is a conversation I want to have on our next Patreon episode because
me and you disagree.
No, I don't disagree with you. I just based on information I have, I think you would disagree with the hackneyed bullshit that Georgia Tech's trying to pull.
So does Ray Anderson have some sort of map to where various skeletons are buried or something at Arizona State? Because I'm not sure what you could do as an athletic director to more deservedly get fired. And yet he was, in fact, getting vote of confidence by the school president to ESPN.
That's right.
By the end of the night. Remember, he hired his buddy, his former client, who hadn't been in college football in 20 years to be the head coach. Didn't work out. There's an ongoing NCAA investigation as a result of that staff's work under that coach. And also they did the whole very weird, it might have just been mumbo jumbo, but new leadership model thing that a lot of people laughed at that clearly didn't work. So like, what's the deal? Like, how is it even possible that he's hiring another football coach?
It may not be possible.
We talk about Texas A&M, and we will talk about Texas A&M on this show. And we talk about how money does not solve every problem, and how you have perennial sort of like the Charlie Brown, the football gets pulled away. We have these sort of perennial losers who eat the curb in spectacular ways. Arizona State is not Texas A&M. They're a different version of it because you don't have the sort of whopper gajillions that are being thrown around and always missing the mark. But Arizona State continually becomes, through every cycle, the BCS era, the playoff era, et cetera, as we move forward, a really good job on paper. And, this time they could really nail it. They could upset the balance of the Pac-12.
I mean,
Pac-10.
Georgia Tech's got those problems too.
I don't know. I wouldn't equate those two. The paper part of Arizona State, I would say, is unequivocally better than Georgia Tech in certain regards, other than geography. But Georgia Tech literally walls itself off from its geography. We've had this conversation. Arizona State, going into NIL, going into portal, and going into the future, aside from the fact that the Pac-12 may or may not be alive, looked fantastic. And we said this when Herm was fired. As long as they fire this guy who hired Herm and who has been sort of a bumbling fuck since he got the job, they could be on paper set up to be very, very successful in the coming era of college football. But they also have a history of hiring Todd Graham, hiring Herm Edwards, hiring like a super scratch and dent version of Miami head coach Dennis Erickson. They like, if you go through Arizona State's history, this is what they do. They always make the wrong decision when they have a clean slate. Always. Like they are, it's never catastrophic. It's just always just enough off the mark for them to squander the potential that they have in Tempe. And by all accounts, they're going to do it again. Why would you trust this man to make this hire? Because he's trying to push out search firms. That's what we were told. He pushed out search firms the first time.
The funny thing is, and Richard, I think you were just kind of nodding to this when you said, I don't know. It might not be possible for him to make another hire. He had said something recently to some reporters that I saw being circled back to yesterday. Someone was like, "Are you going to make this hire?" And he was like, "Well, I'm actually not sure what the structure is going to look like of like who's going to."
Yeah, I think that was at the press conference after they fired Herm.
Yeah, good. That's always good when your athletic director doesn't know how the process is going to go to hire the next coach.
It's not unheard of that you would remove the actual titled AD from this position of tapping the direct next hire and having that authority. That may be contrary to some of the other searches that we've talked about in recent years. It is entirely possible that they push him away from the sort of yes, no big button on who it will be. I would need to see some indication of that or hear it in the back channel before I would have confidence in ASU making a good hire.
Certainly. Do you want to keep talking about squandered potential at different college football programs?
Gig 'em, baby.
Gig 'em, baby. Let's talk about the Texas A&M Fighting Aggies, but let's do it in a certain way. We being both the royal we and at least me, like to joke about this program. We make fun of them a lot because, well, it's funny. Big money, like to throw cash around just for the sake of doing it. They gave their coach a contract that is absolutely insane and is working out terribly. Yada, yada. We get it. I think we like to make fun of A&M just like people like to make fun of Texas. Let's commit ourselves to a sober-headed discussion about what is wrong and what they can do, given that they've kind of locked themselves into some pretty big commitments here with this coach. Fair?
Yep.
Richard?
I think that I'm not the one who is not going to have a sober discussion about Texas A&M. You're looking at the other one there.
Okay.
A&M and Tennessee.
Okay. Let's do it. Let's break this down into a few areas. First of all, they're 3-4. They're 1-3 in the SEC, and their offense is really bad. It's been a whole year since they have breached the 24-point firewall against an FBS team. So they have some issues. Richard, you hear a lot about Jimbo's offense and how he hasn't changed it, how he needs to modernize it. A lot of people think he should hire an offensive coordinator, which, by the way, he hasn't done. He does not have an offensive coordinator. He just likes to do that work himself. What do you really think we are talking about when we talk about Texas A&M's offense needing to modernize, and why it hasn't?
I mean, in the most 30,000 foot way, I kind of think the end of the game against Alabama is a decent example.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you've got a route that involves some pretty precise timing with a freshman wide receiver who, while was in his bag that day, needed him to run a route to a level of precision with the game on the line that he did not execute. It is one example. First of all, it's one example of why not a ton of freshman receivers play for Jimbo Fisher. Kind of historically, Florida State fans will tell you that. Florida State fans will tell you that. But it is one example. This offense is, it's funny. This offense probably could do with some more Mickey Mouse-ness in it.
What do you mean by that?
Is kind of the, I'm not saying be Tennessee, but this offense forces, again, I'm talking 30,000 foot here, but this offense forces its quarterbacks to be big boys.
Okay.
From the jump.
A lot of decision making, a lot of
just in terms of snap processing, a lot of on time, over the middle with accuracy.
But pre-snap too, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, people are like, this is kind of a tangent, but
go for it.
People don't really, I don't want to say don't know what accuracy really is, but I think accuracy is not the binary that people think it is, even when they watch tape, or even when they watch film. There are 2 or 3 advanced accuracy quarterbacks in college football at any given time.
Okay.
And this filters up to the fact that there are not 32 NFL starting quarterbacks.
So you're talking about but at any given time, you're saying there's 3 or so college quarterbacks who have natural accuracy, or just at a high level consistently over the course of 60 minutes.
And Jimbo had one in the year 2013.
Jimbo did have one. Yes, he did.
Yeah.
That was a while ago.
When you had again, do I want to be as simplistic as to say find a Jameis Winston? Kinda, because that's the last time this offense worked.
All right.
So there's 2 options the way that I see it. One is to find a Jameis Winston, see how likely that is that you can pull that one off.
Could be Connor Wegman. We don't know.
Or 2 is to embrace what Richard is calling the Mickey Mouse offense, what you could also call a more QB friendly offense.
And I think to Jimbo's credit, to Jimbo's credit, I do think they've done they've added some RPO elements. Jimbo does not love to run the quarterback at all, for instance. That is not a thing. I know Kellen Mond did a little bit, but not really his big thing.
They still, and this has been the case year after year for Jimbo, are near the bottom of the country in run pass options, in screens, in any indicator that you might find of that make your QB, give your QB easy throws type of offense. They are near the bottom of the country in
can I
those kinds
sorry,
of plays.
I'm sorry, Alex.
No, go ahead.
But because you made a really good point there, and I want to go back to Richard because Richard's tongue in cheek. I think when he's saying Mickey Mouse, that's a term that's a pejorative that's applied to Tennessee and to Ole Miss and to countless other offenses. I mean, honestly, it comes from a top down thing from the pros. It used to. It's bled up to the pros now. We may need to acknowledge that it's not Mickey Mouse anymore. It might just be standard operating procedure for the skill set of the inventory at quarterback that's moving forward, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Eagles. Eagles are the best team, one of the best teams in the NFL right now.
One of your nerds, Richard, and I saw it this morning at like 5 a.m. scrolling Twitter, just wrote a piece. I think maybe it was at the Ringer. I hate this because I always want to credit the writer, where they were talking about Ellinger coming in for the Colts. This has a college football point, I promise, where it's basically like Sam Ellinger's probably not going to save the Colts, but there's a bigger conversation to be had about how statue quarterbacks in the NFL are now dying and or prohibitive to your offense, because the next sort of advanced wrinkle in college and NFL is avoiding the sack inside the play and
like
moving
Tom
past
Brady,
D-line play.
If you're going to be a statue in today's day and age, you should probably be Tom Brady, which means you should probably get the ball out at an insanely quick trigger clip, like to the right place.
Like Breeze did this
every single time.
Which is like this is what I hated about Breeze was I mean, as a Falcons fan, like it did not matter if you jailbroke, if you sent 11, because he could get the ball out so fast on those like easy dinks and dunks and that. So, but there are
why was Drew Brees able to have the career he had at, charitably maybe 6 feet tall? Because he was one of the most accurate quarterbacks we've ever seen do it.
Yes. So to wrap it all, to come back around to A&M for a second, I'm struck, and I talked about this on the single wing, but I'm struck by the fact that like we can talk about this as amateurs, right? As media members, and the industry can tell us this because that's where we're getting our information from. None of this is going to affect what is, and I'm not joking, and a man in more of an authoritarian position than anyone else in college football afforded by the terms and details of his contract, right? So I argued this on the single wing, which is, who is it that's going to sit him down and say, when we say modernize, this is exactly what we're talking about. In other words, like you need to have the 11th member of the offense, the quarterback, being a run threat, making linebackers account for him, et cetera, so forth. Who is going to do that? We had a very easy to understand, I think, conversation about the advancement of offense versus what Texas A&M is running now. Who is going to tell him this? Because what in Jimbo Fisher's history would inform any of us to think that he would take outside input and then take it to heart, or hand play calling over, or hand the book over, or why would he do this?
There are two things here. Like, one of them is this. Like, Jimbo may have just had the moment in circa 2013. Like, it may have just all come together.
Yes, this is where I agree with.
Like it just may have all come together, and I don't think they were lucky, because I personally feel that 2013 FSU team is up there with that USC team as one of the best in the BCS era.
They have an all-timer case, absolutely.
Like really and truly.
Sure, it's like 19 LSU, sort of,
and in a different way. But yes, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like it may have just all come together in 2013, which is not to say that was a veneer or fake or or lucky, because I think they were that good. But like, it doesn't mean that you are that good in perpetuity.
Well, we all agree, but
there's been like 4 or 5 guys in the current era of college football who have been able to do that with some level of perpetuity. Urban Meyer, Nick, Dabo to an extent.
This is what okay. So here's where I want. But Richard, can I just throw a name at you for a second, and I want you to free associate the identity of offensive philosophy. Bob Stoops, Nick Saban. They maintained longer careers. Now I know they're both inherently defensive coaches. They were defensive assistants and coordinators. I get that.
Their brilliance was they changed.
Yes, that's what I'm getting at. Why do we think this man will change? I was like,
nothing.
We can go back
question.
and I'm doing research on a secret base video about Saban's evolution in sort of that halfway mark at Alabama, where he looks at the Manziel A&M team. Ironically, he looks at Hugh Freeze and he goes, "Okay, we can adapt and actually do this better than they can." And then Kiffin, and then so on. And then you can see this happening all over the sport. I am at a loss to think, because Bob Stoops, curmudgeon, right? Bob Stoops looks around the Big 12 eventually and goes like 13-2 ain't going to cut it anymore, or 12-3. I can't remember what the national title score was.
13-2.
It was 13-2.
The problem
you guys were like 5
here. Problem is here, you've got a different story than Dabo making a pivot, the pivot that they are sort of kind of doing, than Bob Stoops, than Nick Saban. None of those
he's going to say pay me.
Well, no, none of those guys are the offensive play caller. Jimbo Fisher is the offensive play caller.
Yes. So to go back to what you're saying about 13, it wasn't a fluke. He had something there. They did it the right way. They also ran the ball really well. I remember that.
Right.
Like they had a coterie of running backs. But we have questioned, and I know UCLA is having a moment, but we have questioned the placement of
Chip may be the one.
Okay.
Where you're like, he now they're not going to win a national championship this year, but.
Right. So hang tight with me. We saw what happened to Gus. We've seen what happens to offensive authors who become head coaches and whose careers are dictated or framed around offensive guru. They tend to die hard. And now you've given one of those personality types, maybe the personality type of this archetype, all of the leverage on the table. So why would he just not say, "Pay me the money"? Sorry,
let me devil's advocate with you on this. I think most people agree, and I certainly do, that Texas A&M can't fire Jimbo Fisher anytime soon. I want to stay here real quick.
I called up some oil and gas analysts on Sunday, and it's not impossible. I'm dead serious. If you listen to Single Wing, I didn't call boosters. I didn't call agents. I called oil and gas people, and they were like, "Yeah, give OPEC plus 9 more months, and it's not the dumbest thing in the world."
I want to finish this thought, though. All right, Richard, go ahead. But then I want to finish the thought about a world where they don't fire him. If you want to say a piece about if they can fire him, go ahead.
No. I want to agree with you.
Okay.
Like, I think this is, and a lot of Texas A&M fans are probably not going to love this point. And I made this point on a TV show. Buyouts are guardrails. Buyouts are so you don't just willy-nilly fire the guy. Now, we have seen Wisconsin to the tune of $15 million, Auburn to the tune of $18-ish million. And you know, on
Nebraska.
and on over the last few years, that, you know, buyouts are meaning less and less. We can spend the money, yada, yada, yada. I think that it would be, and look, man, I really try not to be sanctimonious. I think it would be a very, very cynical and shitty commentary on the state of college sports.
$85 million.
If Texas A&M fired Jimbo Fisher to the tune of $85 million. My thing is, don't sit here and fucking cry about we're not developing players anymore and the players have no loyalty anymore. And, you know, like coaches aren't growing with players and all this kind of stuff with one side of your mouth, and then fire guys willy-nilly. Part of what I think is kind of fascinating about this is that there is a world here where everybody has to sit through this. Everybody has to work through this, and everybody has to just figure it the fuck out. I don't know if that's what will happen, Alex, but there's a world here where the contract is set up so that is what should happen.
So I agree with you, and here's where I want to finish this thought. I don't think that it's really doable for the near future for them to fire this guy. Godfrey's point made at length on Patreon is reasonable. You never know. It's a joke, but it's also not at all a joke where A&M's people get their money.
Nothing's a joke anymore with this industry.
Is that
because what Richard is afraid of becoming is what I am.
But
because I've done this just longer enough than y'all to see those moments where I'm like, that shit won't happen. That would break the morality. And I've seen it happen.
Of course. And a great example is you didn't think South Carolina was going to fire Will Muschamp and pay him during the height of the pandemic. And they did. But here's my thing. At long last, I will finish this thought. I don't think they're going to fire him. And I also don't think that means that they have ceded every ounce of leverage to this coach. Now, they've ceded most of it. because
all right, what could you do here? Like,
here's what you do. In my
is like opinion. The Costanza thing where you lock his office door, or like, I mean,
and it requires their athletic director Ross Bjork to be a more skilled bureaucrat than he might be. And
I'm just gonna mute. I'm gonna mute my mic. I'm just gonna mute my mic. Go.
But look, the way that football coaches are wired, and Godfrey's pissed. So Richard, you can agree with me or not. The way that football coaches are wired,
pissed. It's just
they want to win almost as much as they want to be rich. Jimbo, yeah, like, don't get me wrong, he could just go and say, like, fuck you, I'm listening to nothing. You're going to pay me every red cent, and I'm going to do this my way. And, we'll top out at 8-4 in a couple of years, and things will be like this. But if you want resources, if you want the university to help you with, and granted, A&M's already done quite a lot of this, but you want to help them with any given pot of money that Jimbo Fisher, might want to add this thing to my program, or maybe in the NIL world where we know A&M has been very active, maybe the athletic department can kind of whip some people together and say, all right, Jimbo, we're turning off the spigot here if you don't make some changes to the way you're doing business. I think if you have a skilled enough administrator, you can create leverage to some small extent to kind of extract some changes from your head coach, even when you have signed over the deed to the university to this charlatan, as A&M has done.
Problem is this.
What reaction would he have to that, Alex? And also, do you think that Ross Bjork
No, I don't know that he's skilled enough to do it. But I'm just saying, I think that I reject
what in that man's track record tells you that he's going to be the dominant personality.
No, I don't think that he is the guy to do it. I'm just saying, I kind of reject the notion that you have zero leverage, period, just because you took away the possibility of firing the guy. And because you gave him the deed to the school. I think that there, if you have skilled enough infighters in your athletic department, you find ways to make your employees do what you want to at least some small extent. I believe that.
Here's the other thing. And like, I understand this is kind of a, like, I may be kind of fancifully doing a better Angels of Your Nature kind of thing here, but like, dude, do you want to win or don't you? Like, one thing I am very sure of is that Jimbo Fisher wants to win football games over a long term. Like, I don't really think, and I could be wrong, that's fine. In January, when we sit and we autopsy this whole situation, I assume there will be some portaling, a heavy amount, because I mean, come on. Like, come on. When we sit and really autopsy this, they're going to have to make a change. I'm not talking about with Fisher. I mean, like, internally. Like, something is going to have to give.
Will they fire DJ Durkin? Is that going to fix anything?
No. Although the fact is they never should hire DJ Durkin. That's another, I'm going to spare you all the spiel about him, but it's maybe the biggest embarrassment of his tenure.
I want Iowa to hire DJ Durkin so Alex can just have one nexus in the offseason.
There's your mini series right there. I don't think the defense is the problem. It's quite clearly, I would say, not the problem.
No, I agree.
No, it's not. And if Elko was still there, you would still have these issues because you can only work with what the offense gives you in terms of margins and time.
South Carolina didn't do fuck all on Saturday.
Right. That is a huge issue.
Like, they haven't scored more than 24 points against an FBS opponent
in a year.
Oh boy, man. It is not. I mean, 3 offensive linemen down. I think 2 of them start. The freshmen who are suspended. The state of play is not good right now.
Also, this is the other thing, Richard. You want to win ball games. Yeah. Like, at some point, I think I earnestly believe that there is some amount of millions for Jimbo that is not worth as much as being seen as a failure in this job. Like, I think that it would bug him enough to never win a conference title at A&M, that if he sees that he can swallow a bit of ego and increase the chances of that, he'll do it. And he'd rather do that than just collect every red cent and be a failure.
Yeah, but there's a big gray area in here, and it's just that who has the control in the authorship and the whole authoritarian thing. I keep bringing that back up because Jimbo's going to go back to a predetermined brain pattern, if you will, of thinking that he can solve this. He can outwit this with his methodology, with his toolbox, so to speak.
Want to know what the great irony is? This is going to be a statement. He should probably call Nick.
Yeah, he should. Also,
and I'm sure he'll get right to that.
Yeah.
Can I point out real fast that like we're in a position now years later where when Mike Leach came to the SEC, everyone folded their arms and said, this is a gimmick system that won't work in this league. And when Jimbo Fisher took the A&M job, it was, holy shit, they just woke up this powerhouse and he's going to be as dominant as Alabama.
Gentlemen,
I don't think those two are. I don't
Who's
think
having
those
more
two
success on offense in the SEC right now?
Did you see what happened on Saturday night?
That's one game. Go look at a body of work over the last 2 years. It's not even close.
I want to move to another program that is
Hail State.
struggling with an extremely expensive, recently hired head football coach. But before we do that, it's Home Field Apparel ad read time. Fellas, the shirts of the week this week, our Split Zone Duo Home Field Apparel shirts of the week are the entire Illinois Fighting Illini collection at Home Field. Illinois currently the favorite to win the Big Ten West. Go get your Home Field Illinois gear before they make the Rose Bowl, and there was a run on it. If you use the code ORANGE, get it? Code ORANGE. The code is ORANGE on any Illinois item
We get
at
it,
Home Field
Alex.
Apparel through Sunday. You will get 15% off your very nice orange Illinois Fighting Illini apparel. Also, if you use the promo code SZD20, that will get you 20% off of your first order at The Home for premium, comfortable, vintage, officially licensed collegiate sports apparel. I'm not even reading copy, and I can't say apparel. Sports apparel. Thanks to Home Field, our longest standing partners here. We appreciate you more than you know.
You think they're going to cancel our sponsorship because of that ad read?
It wasn't even a
Have
read.
you
I
ever
don't
heard
even
the shutdown fullcast?
I don't even put copy down for the Home Field reads. I put like 2 bullet points and I just go from memory. And I'm just twisting
in
up
honor
my
of
tongue.
in honor of the Home Field ad read, and because we're doing Illinois this week, Bud, because I know you're listening, because you're crazy. Tell Tom that I was wrong about Brett. See, I'm not above that shit.
See,
I tell people I'm wrong
send
all the time.
messages through the media. Let's talk about the Miami Hurricanes, though, while we stay in the bad situation zone. Mario Cristobal is blaming the press. This is from a Monday press conference, I believe, a couple days after they got boat raced at home by the Duke Blue Devils. Mario
Are you going to
says,
read this? The whole quote?
Yeah,
I want to try and hang on. I want to try and do a dramatic reading and see if I can match the stern pissed offness. Are you ready, Alex? This is impromptu. I took improv classes. I did not, by the way. I think you guys try to affect it more than anything. We have, from day one, made it very clear what we're here to do and what we're here to build. Our history has shown that we don't sell a dream. We don't sell any false hope. We sell the reality of a track record in what we've done, where we've been, and how we've done it. I think that both the parents and the players appreciate honesty and truth in good people, and they see a path for a great future for their sons as well. Again, the truth is always going to win out in the end. Being real is always going to win out in the end. Scene.
So things are going well at Miami right now.
Isn't that the most fucking un-Miami, descriptor? And, I'll get to my whole spiel on this, but yeah,
anyway,
Alex, this is a mess.
I want to hear your spiel because they're terrible. This is a bad football team. May not even make a bowl game. They weren't this bad. They were disappointing, but they weren't this bad under Mark Richt or under Manny Diaz. And this is not what you paid for, man. We don't know what they paid Mario Cristobal because it's a private school, but spoiler, it was a fucking lot. It was a lot. You can surmise that it was one of the biggest contracts in the history of college football coaching. And you're getting a year one regression despite some portaling that's worked out fine. Yeah. It's unacceptable. I don't really care why it's happening. They shouldn't be this bad. Period.
I like a Mad Alex segment. I'm going to jump down to my final point because I feel like it would set the table for conversation better. Here's the big thing. And because the other one, we rooted that sort of problem and scheme. And we can talk about Gaddis and Tyler Van Dyke, and we can talk about a bunch of stuff. But the thing that scares me, the reason why this jumps into becoming a show topic this week is if I'm a Miami fan, I'm so much less scared of the MTSU and the Duke games as I am of this quote. because it betrays a sense of ignorance about a Miami program from a man who helped build that Miami program's singular appeal. So, like, Mario, I'm talking to you, Mario, right now. You can't do the Oregon thing or the Alabama thing here, right? Like, and this is where I want to transition. If you don't know, Mario fired his FIU coach years ago, completely unjustly, just one of the terrible AD moves of all time, goes to the Saban finishing school for a minute, and then comes out of that and then becomes an assistant for Taggart at Oregon, becomes a much better Oregon coach, I think, than Taggart would have been. But, like, Mario, you're talking like an Alabama. You're talking like Saban here. You're talking, you're at Miami where you're from and this is home, but you know what the Miami brand is. I went on a rant and I put the rant on top of his quote, again, on the single wing, about, like, we fail, and Richard's going to eat this up, and I know all my Knowles are really going to eat this up. We fail consistently in the media. So Mario's kind of right here, in my opinion. We fail with Miami. I think all of us who are not from the state of Florida, who have no connection to the University of Miami, on whole, if you polled us honestly, which media never are about this shit, we love the U, baby. We love all that stuff. We love the story. We love what it encapsulates. We love all of it. The state of the U, the I-4 nonsense, the going into Liberty City, Uncle Luke, all of that shit. And I swear to God, I think some of that bleeds into anytime Miami sniffs competency, fucking like Belk Bowl competency. U's back, baby. The U is back. There was nothing that we should have never said the U is back this year. I said this on my show. Like, if you're portaling for offensive line and defensive line, if you're portaling to address that immediately, which is that was the context of the season previews. Tyler Van Dyke's really good. Mario cost a lot of money, but, like, look at these issues they're doing. We maybe, to his credit, maybe have set them up a little too high.
But
I don't know.
That betrays a complicity in what happened.
Okay.
In the public kind of nature of things. Like, anybody around that program would tell you the expectation was we will be in the ACC championship game.
But should it have been?
Yes.
Look around the Coastal.
Yes, it should have been.
Because I'm jumping both sides of this because I'm shocked at the quote, but at the same time, I do think there is relevancy in the results.
I do not think me and Alex from the fucking day Lincoln Riley was hired were bullish, held the line about USC.
I was
feeling good about this.
No, I was too.
No, I know. But this is what I'm saying this. Like, and I can't remember on which show I said this, but I equated Miami to be in a similar station, not exactly, of its division title or bust.
Division title or bust, which is, that's how you framed USC, and we all agreed with you.
I don't think Miami was directly to that level, but they're 3-4 and have lost to Middle Tennessee and just had 8.
All right.
Also,
but Richard and Alex, I'm going to throw this to you, Alex. To y'all's credit, what the fuck does media influence have to do with 8 turnovers?
Nothing.
Well, I think
it's such a weird time to do this.
No, it's what media influence has to do with is if you set expectations at a certain level outside externally, and then you do not meet those external expectations. What I think Mario is trying to say is that's on you, not me/us. The quibble I have with that is that those internally would have told you that the expectation was at a division championship level.
Also,
but even if you're not overhyped by the media, even if you took a job at fucking UAB, you like 8 turnovers in a game costing you against a first year zero program. That's not on the media. That's not on anyone's perception.
No, and also 5 fumbles recovered by the other team
never going to happen again.
It just happens. Yeah, but it's hard to predict. Here's my thing about the media attention with Miami. And this gets into the kind of stuff that I think we like on this show. Miami made so much noise earlier this year. But when I say Miami, the word Miami, that word's doing a lot of work because it's almost treating Miami like an entire nation. Like, which it is. Which it is. I want to be clear. Like, Miami is a country. Miami football is a country. And you've got different nation states. You've got your former players who are all over the sidelines, who are very boisterous about publicly boosting this program. I think Miami's, there's no such thing as somewhat unique. You either are unique or you're not. Miami is a standout in this area.
They're unique.
Sure, they might be unique. They have obviously the people in the program and the administration, players, coaches, whatever. But then they also have this third rail, which is the loud Miami booster. And I understand Mario is not responsible for what John Ruiz, the SPAC billionaire who was talking to every microphone.
Alex is headed where I think the answer is, and this is
like,
this.
Don't embrace those guys.
Well, you don't have a choice, Richard.
I'm not, but here's the thing.
You don't have a choice. They hired you.
You're Miami, and this is part of the deal. When you're Miami, is that people who are like pretty closely associated with you, even if they're external, are not going to just shut the fuck up. They're going to raise expectations.
It's Miami.
And you went to Miami. Mario, you know
Alex,
this. You played at the U.
They clipped a winning coach who was on the recruiting trail after letting him flap in the breeze for weeks while they courted you, Mario. They're pushing a massive initiative to bring their game day experience and stadium back to the city, basically on campus. From what I've read, it's like a city park, which is going to require a shit ton of work and money. They are Miami. They bravado is a function. Like, are you shocked? Because if you're pissed at the media, you need to do a little internal look and go, how did the media get this hyped? So this is, I know I'm jumping on both sides of this argument, but if Mario wants to drill down, and I've acknowledged that the media loves to bite on this, who's feeding it to him? I don't think it was Mario. I think if Mario had his druthers, he would look like Richard's alma mater right now. And I cannot and will continue to compliment Napier.
Because Godfrey, wasn't Mario at Oregon sort of a like, everyone get away from us, just let us do our work.
It literally went from, yes, that's a huge part of it. And that's why I said you're not at Oregon anymore. I can tell you personally, I would go up to Oregon, do stories at Oregon when I was on the national beat at SB Nation. The second Mario came in, and I've talked with Mario, I'm on good terms with Mario as a reporter. The same contacts at Oregon, they're like, hey, Mario wants to shut the doors. That's what and you can do that shit at Oregon. That's how Washington got built under Chris Peterson, because you can do that shit in the Pacific Northwest.
There's a shred of context, and you were around that. So, you can say this. There's a shred of context in differences in what preceded Mario as far as openness and all that kind of stuff. When Willie was there, things were run a little bit differently than when Mario got there. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but it's part of it.
Yeah, Helfrich was an open program. Willie was the 1 year he was there was an open program. Chip was less so. Chip was definitely less so, but like for years,
but the results were
when Marcus Mariota was going to the Heisman, like that was
there was a novelty to Chip's to 2011 Chip ish that sort of changed things, but that's a little bit different story.
Just on field year one stuff. I think the 8 turnovers, the 5 fumbles, all recovered by the other team, are flukish. Probably won't happen again, at least rarely. Here's what is still really concerning. Why is your quarterback way worse this year than he was last year, before you came in and before you hired the Broyles Award-winning offensive coordinator, Josh Gaddis? I think a lot of people, and Richard, you've kind of entertained this too, have said, all right, well, maybe Van Dyke was just a flash in the pan. Okay, but he played in 10 games last year. Like, it wasn't like a 3 or a 4 game.
I thought he was going to be an emergent quarterback. That's how we couched him in the preseason.
And Mario said something right when he was hired about like how excited he was that Van Dyke was sticking around. Like, why is that guy worse? And am I supposed to just pretend that I didn't see Justin Herbert be good, not great for years at Oregon? Am I supposed to just pretend that you didn't do better than Anthony Brown for the last 2 years at Oregon?
The Anthony Brown thing is
like, am I
damning.
supposed to just pretend that Mario doesn't have a below average track record at this position and that's not concerning?
Richard?
I will say that I did not think Tyler Van Dyke was like QB1.
Well, sure, but
I have some disagreements with some folks about what he can or can't be, but I did not think he was QB1. I don't know. I didn't really see it. So as far as underwhelming expectations, I don't think Tyler Van Dyke is underwhelming my personal expectations.
Okay.
Or this passing game is
it's
underwhelming
still not
my
good
personal
that he's
expectations.
Worse by a lot than he was in 2021. You know,
I don't want to get us off
whether
in the
he's
ditch.
a first round pick or not. Like you never want to be a yard and a half worse per throw a year after.
Wait, hey, Alex, are we framing up Justin Herbert now in the same way that we're doing Josh Allen, Craig Bowl, Wyoming, Buffalo? Because
not quite, but
that's a pretty extreme one.
Not quite, because it's not like a Josh Allen case. Like Josh Allen statistically was a below average Mountain West quarterback, and now he's a cyborg. Herbert was a good, fine, above average, solid Pac-12 quarterback. Yeah. But you look at him in the NFL, and there are smart people who are like, this guy, Justin Herbert, is one of the 3 best quarterbacks in the NFL.
Well, not this year, but
he's been hurt.
Tangent, but hurt. Not this year, not his fault. He's in a point is he's great. I mean, he's one of the true elite young talents at the position. Yes.
And how did you view him at Oregon? Like, not like that. And so that doesn't look great for Mario either.
The one thing I don't want to do that's been submitted, like we've had some patron questions about this, and it's also just sort of in the zeitgeist, is I don't want to compare right now, like where Oregon's at and is the whole, like, who's the author here when you have a first year situation between, well, Oregon, they got their fucking teeth kicked in and we said, okay, well, Mario team, because this happened against Utah twice, big games, etc. But then it's largely still his roster at Oregon. They've rebounded quite nicely. Do we put that on Lanning? And then, are Miami fans, should they look and say, like, oh, he can build a resilient roster? Because I actually did the unthinkable thing, gentlemen. Richard, brace yourself. I went and dug through Miami blog comments last night on a whim.
That's on you,
buddy. Scary. And in doing so, that's where the faith is being applied right now. The faith is being applied to Oregon beating UCLA this past weekend. That they just need to get the Manny guys out. And then someone will jump in and be like, isn't Tyler Van Dyke a Manny guy? And then they all fucking fight with each other because it's a blog. But I don't even want to touch that yet because I just feel like we don't have enough data points. And there's no way of knowing at the moment.
Let's do Oregon quickly, because you just mentioned their program. I just want to kind of close this loop because we touched on them after a very impressive beating of UCLA the other day. Do we think that Oregon is... I'll ask it like this. You thought Oregon was one thing before Georgia beat them up, and you think they're one thing now. How close are those two things? Do you think more highly of what Oregon is now than before the Georgia game? Or do you think the same or less?
No, I mean, I think you can. I think the farther away you get from the Georgia game, the farther you can week one the Georgia game.
Yes.
Now,
wait, I said that though.
It is going to, that rent is going to come due if you are to conceptually see that Georgia team again. Like similar to the Utah thing last year, if you get smoked by Utah, then you play Utah again and get smoked by Utah. Like, okay. I can't do anything. Like, I can't spin that. So if they get to the playoff,
I think Richard is setting up a Peach Bowl where number 1 Georgia plays number 4 Oregon.
if you get to the playoff and Georgia stomps your ass again, we're going to come full circle on that, baby.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I do think that Oregon deserves Oregon is a team one of the teams that I think I'm interested in blank slating.
Right now? Like
Post-bye
as of
as of kind of like this time last week. I'm interested in blank slating a team like Oregon or something close to it, in that I don't forget about everything that came between weeks 1 and 6, but I do evaluate you now closer to, absolute zero.
Why now?
That I would have had in August.
Why now and not week 3?
Now because it's, halfway through the season, and that's just neat from a math perspective. So you kind of take your first 6 and then look at your next 6. But I mean, look, Oregon.
But the problem is they got a shit schedule down the stretch ish.
That's why I would say go back to this time last week.
Please don't get mad, UCLA. Utah fans. Yeah, sorry, Utah fans. I didn't mean that.
Go back this time last week and treat UCLA as their week 1 in a sense, and then take them over the next 6 weeks for what they are. Because, and we said this on the Sunday show, they're an automatic 40 points. They are getting the best out of Bo Nix. They are as efficient on offense as any team in the country. They are, to Dan Lanning's credit, coaching to win ball games.
Okay. All right. We have not said Dan Lanning's name yet because I don't know what to apply to him right now.
What I apply to Dan Lanning is going for it twice on 4th down in his own territory, including from his own 30-yard line, out of a timeout, out of a break.
Yeah.
What I ascribe to Dan Lanning is stealing a possession back against Chip Kelly.
Yeah.
What I ascribe to Dan Lanning,
ascribe a pair of nuts too big for some Dockers, baby.
What I ascribe to Dan Lanning is coaching. It is not letting the weather affect you at all.
Metaphorically or just legitimately Oregon?
No. The weather was shit on Saturday. For the second half.
I was
the sky was very gray. It was like a unique shade.
It was Oregon ass weather.
Buddy, if you've been up there, that's every day. Or for at least
but what
an
I mean
hour.
is they played in it like it didn't matter.
I know one thing that
didn't affect them.
That Bo Nix thing and the automatic, ascribing the word automatic to Bo Nix, that's going to get Kenny Dillingham a job, buddy.
My thing right now here is they're going to beat the brakes off of California. They're going to beat the brakes off of Colorado.
Yeah.
Please don't go into that Washington game and throw up on yourself.
Yes.
I beg of you.
I'm not saying yes that I'm just like, give me some West Coast intrigue in these games. Make them make them worth watching.
God. That's the one thing.
Richard, they close Washington, Utah, both at home and then on the road for a not necessarily given Civil War in which they are more talented than no doubt, but like I love my Beavers. So
this is to a lesser degree, what I have to say about Tennessee. I'm
okay.
To a lesser degree, what I have to say about Tennessee. What defines you as a championship team, Tennessee, is not beating Alabama. Because Alabama, it's rare, but Alabama has been beaten by an Ole Miss, by an A&M, by an Auburn that were not championship caliber. What defines you as a championship team is being a 2.5 touchdown favorite at home against a team you should beat, Kentucky.
If Bo Nix gets invited to New York, they're going to have to put painkillers in the water supply at Auburn.
I'm going to have to move. Like, it's what defines you as a championship team is everybody knowing you should win on the road or even at home. Tennessee's at home this week and still doing it anyway.
Okay.
And so that's what I want to see about Oregon and Tennessee.
So vaporize the next two opponents.
Yes.
Don't fall apart. Actually, screw this. You got to run the table. Let's be honest. If they're going to get the national attention that we're kind of quietly propping them up for, if there's any conversation about them ever seeing Georgia or anyone else of that caliber again, this is the Pac-12. Let's be honest. I'm not getting into playoff bias, but this is just the reality. They got to win out. Full stop.
I think their Utah game is just going to be absolutely fascinating because of how Utah dismantled them twice last year.
I mean, yeah, the bottom line is if they win that game, nobody gives a shit about Mario leaving anymore.
I'm going to be fascinated with their Utah game and their Washington game. It's a rivalry game. It's a tough spot. It's a rivalry game that you've owned for the last 10-ish years plus for Oregon, no matter how good Washington's been or not. So coming home with Oregon, that's what I'm interested in. All right. Vested Interests brought to you by BetUS. Great sponsors of the show. BetUS, of course. BetUS.com to join now and get 200% in bonuses with promo code SZD. Last week, I made up a prop. And last week, Ohio State did what I asked them to do. Ohio State covered the total by themselves of 55.
They did. That was a loss.
The total was 49.
Yeah.
They covered to the tune of 53 points.
54 for Ohio State. Again, not quite 55 though, which I always scored a couple years ago. I just want to make sure I remind everyone. Okay. I want to make sure I remind everyone of that. So last week everyone went 1-0 except for me. Godfrey, you're 9-2 on the season. Richard, you're 8-3. I'm 6-5. The voting public bringing up the rear at 3-4-1. But yes, we are doing another Iowa total this week. It's kind of our way of protesting the way that football team and athletic department are being run at the moment. Previously, the Iowa Rutgers total was 34, which was the lowest we could find on record. I don't know that anyone could find anything that low historically. It may well have been the lowest in the history of totals. Richard and I correctly went over on that one. And, I might test my luck again this week. I don't know. 37.5 is the total for Northwestern Iowa, which is going to be a despicable game. I mean, it is going to be very, very, very bad stuff, folks. Like, not good, not for the faint of heart, but it's a little higher for some reason than the total between Iowa and Rutgers. I think the reason for the difference is that Northwestern plays really fast, as we've talked about.
Yeah, the reason is Northwestern actually runs a bunch of plays.
They run a ton of plays, and so I think the thought is, okay, surely there will be 38 points scored in this game when Northwestern is running like 90 plays, which they might do.
They don't run a ton of plays well, but they run a ton of plays.
They run a ton of plays, just not well. So the total is 37.5, but for the purposes of our game, we're calling it 35.5 because we put out this poll on Twitter on Sunday, and that was what the number was, and it's moved. The Twitter vote is going under, despite the line kind of moving against them over that time. Richard?
I am at 35.5. At 35.5, I'm taking over.
Okay. Bold, but okay. Steven?
I'm going under, which scares me because I'm agreeing with Twitter, and they had a terrible record this year.
They do have a bad record. So sometimes a number is just too low. And I've said that before. I mean, I did that when I took the over in the Iowa Rutgers affair, and the Iowa defense scored a couple touchdowns and got us to the over. But I don't think that this number is too low, even at 35.5. I think that this requires multiple Iowa defensive touchdowns.
Fuck it. I'm going under.
I just do not see how Northwestern. I don't see how Northwestern.
You could have had a point break between me and you.
No.
He just changed it in the segment.
All right,
that's right.
We're all going under.
This is bullshit.
And you know what? Let's just give ourselves the closing line value. Let's call it 37.5. We're gonna call it 37.5.
I just pulled up Iowa's Bill C stats profile. Holy shit!
With the GIF in it. Yeah.
Success.
Iowa fans have been retweeting this all week and adding on shit to it, and it's been my favorite thing on Twitter.
Not even that. I'm looking at this. So their back end team profile is success rate 128th, marginal efficiency rate 123rd, 3-and-out percentage 128th, points per scoring opportunity 131st. You will note that there are 131 FBS football programs. Red zone touchdown rate 129th, goal to go touchdown rate 125th. Plays per game 130th, yards per drive 131st, points per drive 131st. Fellas,
yeah,
this has got.
They're consistent.
This is,
they're consistent
right now. This is. It's got to be one of the worst offenses we've seen.
Dude, did you see what Kirk Ferentz said at a press conference this week, at two different press conferences this week, by the way, when he was. So Kirk doesn't get challenged on this a lot.
Are you watching Iowa press conferences?
No.
Yeah,
no,
dude.
I'm watching.
I'm going to restrict your internet.
I'm watching things that come out of these press conferences. I think that Kirk is not used to getting adversarial questions. My understanding of Kirk.
No shit.
my understanding of Kirk is that Kirk has done a very good job over the years bringing a lot of the people who cover Iowa to heel by threatening access, which is, you hear that a lot.
Which is what you do. I mean, shit, I hear that. Yeah, that's Alabama. That's Penn State. That's
Kirk gets a question after they put up this embarrassing performance against Ohio State on Saturday from an Ohio State writer in Cleveland, who says, who basically aggressively questions him about I don't have the exact question, but asking him questions about nepotism and Brian Ferentz being the offensive coordinator of the team. More than fair. I mean, this is more than fair. It's the obvious question that you need to ask this guy. It's really the only question that anyone should have for Kirk Ferentz for the rest of the season. Kirk gets very defensive. And then at his local press conference in Iowa on Tuesday, It's like, it hit me on the way home. As bad as that loss was, it could have been worse. I could have been that reporter. I could have had that guy's job and acted like that guy, as if he had just been subjected to the persecution of a lifetime because someone was like, hey, man, you have the worst offense in the country and it's run by your son who's not qualified for the position. Oh, what's going on here? And they didn't even ask him like that. They asked
just
him
to
much more
recap,
nicely.
he clapped on a reporter after the fact. He brought
like a day later, 2 days later. Yeah.
What a petty bitch.
Dude, this Kirk has grievance. Covering Iowa would be very unpleasant. I'm glad I'm not an Iowa writer because my understanding
really pleasant if you've got a thick enough skin.
My understanding is that if you are at Iowa and you write something that is negative about Kirk Ferentz or the Iowa football program, you will pay for that. Just
Fuck
not a pleasant way to live in my opinion. And I think that it is furthered by his interaction with this reporter over the weekend.
Well,
into the
for
week.
years, I'll be honest, just to jump in real fast. You know how you get shit like that, guys? The readership, the audience doesn't demand more. They're okay
demanding
with
it now. No, they're demanding it now. I'm telling you.
They're demanding it now, but they sure as shit didn't demand it 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 years ago. And that's
not
the
when you're winning.
So this is a problem of Iowa's own making, as in the fan base and the boosters and everybody else. This is how you get a man ends up with this much authority because it's handed to him. Oh my God, if he did that to me. Oh God, I wish. Shit.
I can tell. I can tell that you wish.
I gotta go. As soon as we're done, I'm gonna go pitch the Post on an Iowa story. I'll pay for the travel.
I'm just saying they want it now. I wrote about this a couple weeks ago at Slate Magazine, and I don't think I've ever gotten more adoration from a fan base than Iowa fans after I wrote about how this Brian Ferentz situation is a disgrace. I might as well have just gone to their
I just have
troubled city to shine a light on inequities there and save people's lives. Like it was like a hero's welcome for writing about this.
I just have no sympathy whatsoever because when we started Podcast Ain't Played Nobody, reliably, we would get actual legitimate toxic harassment over Bill C's rankings from Iowa fans. Bill C was trying to tell you this thing sucked a decade ago. And you got mad at him and said the math was wrong.
Bill was right. There's no other way to say it. We'll see if we're right on Sunday. We'll see if you're right, the voting public, on Sunday.
Ooh, Alex transition there. Go, baby.
If you want to stake some money on whether you're right or not, go to betus.com. That's betus.com to join now and get 200% in bonuses with promo code SCD. Nobody in the industry gives better discounts than BetUS. Again, join up, use promo code SCD. You get up to 200% in bonuses on your first deposit. BetUS.com.
Let's taste it.
Yes. Taste it. It's not a great week to taste it.
Okay, I did a quick look at this when Alex put it up, and I was like, I can't believe we're going this scant on G5. I got mad at both of you. Then I went to the LSU schedule website, and oh my God, what a terrible week for the G5.
This is not a good week of G5 games. This will probably be the most P5 heavy episode that we've ever done. Because look, we're not going to lie. That's our pledge to the audience. There's not a lot going on this week on paper in the group of 5 ranks. It's just the reality. You can go and look for yourself. All times are God's. That's Central Time. Thursday at 9 on FS1, Utah at Washington State. I'm making this one my Noki and Tires road trip of the week. I have actually never been to that part of Washington State, the part that's basically Idaho, where Washington State University is. It's always looked fun. I like the Cougs in my life on the internet a lot. Shout out Brian Floyd. I think that I would have a good time here, and I suspect that the party begins on Thursdays in Pullman.
Yeah, I would fear for because you're such a sweet soul, and people like Floyd exist. I would fear for your actual physical safety. Like if you did a full weekend in Pullman, that's not an insult. It's just I think you're too pure of heart to do Washington State, Alex.
Well, that's sweet.
I would be scared the whole time. I would make you check in with me like a parent.
That's extremely sweet of you. Elsewhere, 11 on Fox on Saturday, Ohio State at Penn State. To what extent are we going to believe in this one this year as a close one? Because this is sometimes a close game.
Nope. Michigan cured me of my. Nope. Absolutely not. Richard.
You're not entertaining it?
Nope.
I'm definitely not entertaining it.
Okay. All right. So you teased me. Yeah. All right. Scheme guy. Fuck. Tell me.
What is the spread?
Not
I don't know what
enough.
the spread is. I think it's like
Not enough.
it's got to be over 2 touchdowns. Penn State's offensive line stinks. Ohio State's the best team in the country. See you Sunday.
Bye.
Okay. Same time, FS1, Oklahoma at Iowa State.
Give me the lulls, God. I don't ask for much. I actually ask for a lot,
If
God.
Iowa State loses this one, it's gonna be tough.
God, give me the lulls.
And they might, because Oklahoma can still score points.
Just give me the lulls, God. They were so hard to deal with in the offseason. God, I'm not even talking to my co-host right now. It's just me and you, God. Okay? That fan base was so difficult to deal with their stupid state legislators and all that dumb, sore-ass ex-boyfriend nonsense with Lincoln. God, give me this Iowa State victory. Amen.
Same time, ABC. Honestly, it's a pretty healthy noon Eastern slate.
Okay.
11 on ABC, Notre Dame at Syracuse.
Wait, you just teed up. It's a healthy noon slate, and then you hand him. Okay, all right.
No, look, here's the thing. I think that Syracuse should win this game, and if they do, it will be very exciting because beating Notre Dame is always exciting for a program in like Syracuse's position in the sport, even if it's a down Notre Dame. Big opportunity for Syracuse. Like, don't blow it, please. That's all I'm saying. Notre Dame should not be able to score enough points to win this game in the Dome.
I wonder how many Irish fans in the New York television area are going to figure out how large a state New York is this weekend when they rent a car and drive to Cuse.
Yeah, Syracuse is Syracuse is basically Canada.
It's Ohio.
Canada.
Ohio. It's in a lake. It's not. I don't have anything yet because I still don't know what the hell Notre Dame is, and I'm going to mumble my way out of this. We can talk about it on another show.
I mean, Notre Dame's defense is good. Notre Dame's offense is not. They have Michael Mayer and nothing else.
Well, further evidence this is a great schedule this week. 2:30 on ABC. Alex wrote this down. Illinois at Nebraska. Okay.
Yeah, so this one is on here because I am interested in whether or not Illinois can discover some offense. Sometimes I put a game on here because I want to see something revealed about a team. If Illinois is going to ever score points this year and really, really rev it up, that they're not complaining about the way things are, then this game will be a tell because if you can't score against Nebraska, you can't score against anybody. Illinois has done this so far with one side of the ball, doing all of the work. I don't think that will really change, but I want to see if they score points here.
That's good enough for me to do drop ins periodically on it then. So mission accomplished.
2:30 on ESPN, a possible preview of the AAC championship game. I think at least Cincinnati will be there. UCF is hosting the Bearcats. It is, like we said, not much of a G5 week, and UCF is coming off kind of an embarrassment, just where they had nothing in the tank at ECU. But if Cincinnati is going to take an L, this is a pretty good candidate for that to happen.
Cincinnati has declined almost in perfect accordance with the high-level skill position talent that they lost, like losing Desmond, losing Sauce, losing those guys, but they have not fallen off at all. Testament to Fickell, who is now the winningest coach in Cincinnati history, and that happened fast.
That did happen pretty fast. I wonder what the last coach there is doing nowadays. 2:30 on Fox, Oklahoma State, Kansas State.
Did you skip cocktails for a reason?
Oh no, it's at the same time. I'll get around to it.
Okay.
Oklahoma State, Kansas State should be fun.
This is my road trip. Low key, not related to the game. I actually really love Manhattan, Kansas. I've talked about this before. Great tailgating experience, great fan base. One of some of the nicest people in the world. Of course, you got the Dairy Call Hall, I believe. I know it just doesn't get play, but like it's a fun road trip to take. It's also, I think, Western Kansas is pretty, so I'm a weird person. Guys, Oklahoma State is okay. I'm just gonna throw this out, Richard. I don't want to rant. Maybe the quietest transition from perennial top 20 team to top 15 team to top 10 team that I can recall in the last 20 years, Alex.
Yeah, they do kind of narrowly slide in and out of that designation. Happens quick.
No, what I'm saying is we can kind of say this, and I still feel like I'm saying it softly for some reason. Like Oklahoma State is a perennial top 10 team. Now it might be 9 or 10 or 11, but like
perennial top 15 team. Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah, and this has just kind of quietly happened. For Kansas State to maintain, I want to say just more than positive vibe. This would be a hell of an upset. This is a team that beat Oklahoma, which was a more fun, impressive thing to say. By the way, I need to apologize to you, Alex, because we it was brought to my attention by one Brian Floyd, Wazoo alum, that we dunked on you all week leading into the K-State Oklahoma game. We're like, that shit's not happening this year. This was a different Oklahoma, okay? So yeah, we're sorry about that. They're probably not going to beat OSU though.
Perhaps not.
I like the K-State's my team though. But anyway, okay.
And this is your Nokian road trip.
Yes, go to Manhattan, enjoy your day. You will, I promise. Western Kansas is beautiful.
2:30 cocktail party, CBS. There's actually, so Richard just Irish exited. He had to take a source call, I believe. But there has been discussion this week, like a kind of a precursor statement jointly from Florida and Georgia about maybe moving this game out of Jacksonville and making it a standard, Gainesville, Athens every year situation.
Okay.
I don't know. I kind of like that they play this game in Jacksonville. Like, do they not have enough home games in Gainesville
Georgia,
and in Athens?
This is more of a Georgia thing than it is a Florida thing, and I think most of those fan bases will cop to that. I could definitely see the disadvantage if you're a Georgia fan. I see less of a disadvantage if you're a Florida fan. I do think that the cocktail party is really determined by the age of the participant, and I'm trying not the football players, the fans. It is a really fun, debaucherous thing to do at a certain point in your life, and then if you're just trying to catch a good conference game, it's like, well, shit, I'd rather this be in the swamp. I'd rather this be in Athens. It loses its appeal very quickly. I've been told, and a bunch of people are going to jump on me about that. I don't have a dog in the hunt. This is one of the few major college football events in my entire career I have never attended. I don't really worry about it because it's in the Jag Stadium. Like it is what it is. This to me is far less of a game day appeal than like Red River.
I think that it's a good use of the neutral site, even though I think the neutral site is overused severely in college football. I kind of hope it sticks around, but that's just my opinion. 6 on ESPN, Kentucky at Tennessee.
We didn't talk about the game. Florida's Florida's going to acquit itself respectfully for a minute, and then Georgia's just going to be Georgia.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, that will happen in that game, obviously.
Yeah.
Kentucky at Tennessee at 6. This is the one for Tennessee. Win this game, and your regular season is not just a success, not just a smashing success, but an unqualified one. Lose this game, and things get a little angsty again. You'll always have the Bama moment. You'll still be on track for a great season.
Yeah,
but this one will sting. You do not want to lose this game, and it would make the playoff a much harder sell.
I was about to say, in reality, here's what's actually happening, and some people are going to get mad that I'm reducing it to these terms, but college football reduced it to these terms. So I'm just the messenger. You win this game, short of a 70-point loss to Georgia, you have a really good shot at the playoff. Like you can lose to Georgia and make the playoff with one loss if you win this game. Yeah. That's how you should approach this. So don't even worry about Georgia.
There has been, and I think it's been refreshing, been very little general college football playoff talk this year in the sport.
Well,
it's been kind of nice.
Richard will tell you that ESPN finally listened to the zeitgeist, and it just, now I will say this, because I put the Jonah Hill gif on Twitter last night, that ramps up this week. From here on out, I'm kind of judging their restraint on from here until Thanksgiving.
Well, also it's November, so I don't want to overly hipster it and be like, oh, we can't talk about the playoff. Tennessee has a very good opportunity to make the college football playoff, and I agree.
It's October, Alex.
But it's going to be November in days. If they win this game, I agree. The path is right there as long as they keep it close against the Georgia Bulldogs. 6:30 on ABC. Michigan State at Michigan. Michigan State is talking already. Michigan State is terrible. Oof. Michigan is good.
Yeah. I don't know what the hell's it. Yeah.
So Michigan State is kind of a dumpster fire, and Michigan has a good opportunity in front of them. So what I'm saying is, you should probably think about Michigan State winning this game.
I don't have anything to add. This is just historically
a sewer monster, and they're going to drag
we're
you
going
in.
We're going to get to weirdness in a second as we transition. By all accounts, this should be a 3-touchdown Michigan win. And because of that, specifically because of these two names and these two helmets, I would then say that, this is where Michigan State devil magic occurs. And good for the Spartans. 6:30 on SEC Network, and closes us out, actually, Alex. This game is the most interesting game of the week. You have Texas A&M, whom we devoted quite a large amount of time to in this podcast, and Ole Miss. We did not devote a lot of time to Ole Miss on this podcast. We did last week, though, and I framed them up and I said, you could easily go, you could win every game down the stretch from here on out. You could lose every game. I said, but what I'm predicting is 2-3. They lost last week. They did exactly what I thought they would do against a better LSU, a alarmingly improved LSU team, right? I don't want to give Brian Kelly any flowers just yet, but things are looking good. Now you have A&M coming off of a loss. I know they're coming off a lot of losses. There are some serious issues with Ole Miss's defense. I'm just curious if now you have ex Ole Miss defensive coordinator DJ Durkin, can they replicate what LSU did to create hiccups in Lane Kiffin's very aggressive offense? Just some interesting decisions made. They got him off balance, and that's all it took. There is potential for A&M to win this game. It's at home. I kind of lean towards A&M after everything we just discussed.
I agree with you that it will be fascinating. I would pick Ole Miss because I'm not sure where A&M, even despite what you just said about the Ole Miss defense, I'm not sure where A&M is going to find enough points. Like, you have to assume Ole Miss is going to be at least well into the 20s. You have to just figure that, even against a good defense. And A&M has not gotten above that against an FBS team, as we say for the third time
or
now
this
on the
is
show
a Jackson,
in a year.
This is a Jackson Dart injury game or something like that. I don't know.
Hope not.
I don't know.
Yeah, it is also one of these weeks where the late slate is not especially detailed, which is good for you.
Yeah, no. I apologize. Oh, it is good for me. Here's a transition. Oh, man, I'm nervous.
Godfrey, you will have the hurry up with Richard on Sunday. I'll be busy. You'll be handling that. Thank you very much for doing it. Also,
I'm
Richard's
terrified.
Nokian road trip is the Kentucky-Tennessee game.
He'll actually be there.
Steven, if I wanted to enter my college football road trips on some sort of map, is there a place where I could do that?
You know what, Alex, there is. It's NokianTires.com/SZD for our road trip map. You know what happens when you put your road trip in? You're entered to win a set of Nokian tires. They're very lovely tires, as y'all know. If you've been to the SCD, that's at Split Zone Duo Instagram. I took Nokian tires on my family vehicle to go watch a college football game. I trust Nokian tires with my family. Congratulations to Ben N for winning a set of Nokian tires as part of this monthly drawing. All you got to do is enter it in. You get a chance to win every month. He drew up a road trip from his home in the Tidewater area to the Virginia-Miami game in Charlottesville. His plans for the trip were to go to the college football game. Very easy. Eat great barbecue. Hell of a plan. I like it so far. And then see some beautiful fall foliage while drinking cider and picking apples. Ben, I appreciate all those things. And Virginia is a lovely place to do all those things. Yeah, absolutely. Enjoy those fresh tires for your fresh road trip. We're going to keep drawing a name every month. You get an entry every time you put something on the map. This is a great time of year to take a Nokian road trip. It's fall. It's college football. This is it, man. We're at the apex. Nokian makes tires for all seasons. And they basically invented the winter tire. So we're getting into that time of year where reliable quality is so essential as the seasons turn. Alex, I'm scared to death about Sunday.
Yeah, thank you for handling the hurry up. I'm gonna be out and about. You'll do great. You've done this before. We've made the offense very podcaster friendly. So I'll be back with us next week.
Oh, is it gonna be looking at the sideline? You hold up one number, I throw it to the first option.